Hello, 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 my beautiful blossoms, blooms, and buds. Sorry, I'm kind of scrambling a little bit, but welcome to my book garden. I'm Rosebud Reads, and yes, this is a basement, not a book garden, but we make do. With what we have in this economy, this is the best we got right now. Anyway, welcome to my live stream. If you couldn't tell, this is a pretty chill live stream. I will be talking to the chat. I will be talking to myself. I will be making comments. Hello, 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 Peacock Pages. And Chi-Chi, Kiki, hello. How are you both doing today? Good, hopefully. We are going to be continuing the Imperial Uncle from halfway in chapter 5 through chapter 6. We actually will finish that tonight. I had some energy drinks and we'll actually be conscious this time, unlike last time. So I am doing pretty good. I'm nice and clean. It is very hot here where I live right now. Also, it might storm tonight, so I will be watching the internet connection notifications up there. If it starts getting kind of funky connection-wise, please let me know. It might get kind of windy. It might do something funky to the wires. You never know. But I reset my internet right before this, so we should be good. In regards to this book, copyright aspects, I do not own anything. I don't own the book. I don't own the rights. I'm not the author. The only thing I own is the physical copy of the Imperial Uncle in front of me and my time. So please don't come at me. I'm doing this just because. Oh, who's there? I see a new name. Cookielicious, welcome. It's your first time I see you in the chat. Welcome. I hope you enjoy. Oh yeah, and I'm Rosebud Reads. Welcome. I always forget to say that. But yes. I hope you are having a good day, Cookielicious, and I hope you enjoy. I'm excited that you're here. It's always cool when new people and old viewers join in. So yeah. So let's see what happened right before this. I did not have time to take a peek. Oh, you're welcome, Cookielicious. So Liu Tongyi is still healing up from getting stabbed. And kind of half admitted, well, he fully admitted that he was in love with Ransi to his face, and then kind of like half admitted that he loved Yoon Yu, but like it wouldn't work last time. I'll read this. Oh, sorry. That would be my ringtone. But anyway, I'll just read the last little bit and then we'll keep going. So, while I languished in my bedroom, a messenger came from the palace to say that my nephew, the emperor, had cause to summon me. The emperor's word was absolute. I had no choice but to change into court dress and hasten to the palace. My nephew, the emperor's brow was slightly furrowed. There was a careworn look on his face. He looked at me and asked, "Why do you look so frustrated, Imperial Uncle? Is there something on your mind?" I quickly said that it was nothing, just that Hansi didn't know what was good for him and refused to marry the queen. Oh yeah, so the queen kind of got helped out by Hansi, who is like his driver. And she thinking like, oh, he's such a great person. There's no way this couldn't be the prince. So there was a little mistaken identity bit there. And so the queen was like, or was it princess? Queen. The queen was like, well, I still want to marry the guy that I liked because I thought he was neat and great. And Hansi is like, no. I am not comfortable with this. So it is causing issues. So I was attempting to enlighten him. Oh, it's about Hansi, said Chizzy. We thought that he might not be willing to be a king consort. It is no matter if you are not skilled in enlightening others, Imperial Uncle. Yun Yu often goes to your residence, so why not let him talk some sense into Hansi? My heart skipped. I am afraid that neither is Supervisor Yun especially skilled in these matters. Oops. Chizzy raised a hand and said, forget it. We have no interest in wrangling over the king consort question today. If Yun Yu is not skilled in enlightening others, then we will send Chancellor Liu, who is most excellent at it, to your residence. Oh yeah, Liu Tongyi is the one that he likes. And he really did call over a eunuch and told him to transmit a decree sending Liu Tongyi to Huai Manor for a chat with Hansi. Just a whole bunch of awkward. I watched the eunuch leave to obey this order in the dark about my nephew, the Emperor's plans. Chizzy circled back to the throne and sat, and had a chair brought up beside me. With a smile that showed his teeth, he said, all right. Chancellor Liu will go to your residence and have a chat with Hansi, and you can stay here and keep us company, Imperial Uncle. We have nothing serious at hand, only something on our mind that we would like to talk over with someone. Another half a tooth showed. Sit, Imperial Uncle. Feeling vigilant, I thanked him for his benevolence and sat. Then Chizzy said, we have been hesitating on the question of a particular person. We do not know the right way to treat him. Should we tackle him, or just let him be? Anyone who could make your majesty hesitate must be troublesome indeed, I said. It's probably you, my dude. You are perfectly correct, Imperial Uncle. This person, we have never been able to understand him. He has always weighed on our heart, leaving us no peace of mind day or night. I said at once, Your Majesty, affairs of state may be pressing, but you ought to be more mindful of your health. You are always so solicitous towards us, Imperial Uncle, Chizzy said. You have been ever since we were young. Whatever we wanted, you were always sure to guess. Your Majesty has done me the kindness of calling me uncle, I said. Though I am not a full uncle, I must still live up to the title. My nephew, the Emperor, seemed greatly affected by this. Great change came over his eyes and his expression as he looked at me. Afterward, he said many things to me, mostly concerning memories of his childhood. He spoke of going to play at Huai Manor, spoke of the youthful exploits of Prince Dai and the others. It was not until night had fallen that I was able to take my leave. Before I left, Chizzy said, Imperial Uncle, we will remember what you have said today. I carried these words back home with me. Perhaps Chizzy already knew about the rebellion. Maybe the person Chizzy had spoken of hesitating about was me. There you go. Back at the manor, I was surprised to see the Imperial Chancellor's sedan. So Liu Tongyi had yet to succeed in enlightening Hansi. I went around to the rear courtyard to assess the situation and met Liu Tongyi coming from the other direction, having just finished his counseling. In the lamplight, Liu Tongyi looked exhausted. It was clear that he had found persuading Hansi very hard going. I asked whether Chancellor Liu had succeeded. Liu Tongyi put his hands to his temple and shook his head. I had gotten a taste of the extent of Hansi's stubbornness the day before, and instantly felt a kind of professional sympathy toward Liu Tongyi. Therefore, I earnestly asked him to stay to eat and catch his breath before he left. Liu Tongyi tactfully refused. He seemed to be in a hurry to get home and go straight to sleep to recover his strength, so I didn't insist. All right, here is the new part. The next day, a pigeon came from Shusho with a letter. The letter contained only 4 words. All has been arranged. Uh-oh. Reading this letter was like swallowing a balm for my mind. I immediately told a servant to invite Yunyu. After I gave the order, I thought that was inappropriate. Every day was too frequent to invite Yunyu. I needed to do something different. So I called back my messenger. This evening, go to Twilight House to pick up young Master Chu Shun. Tell him that I miss him and would like him to come play the zither here. The messenger looked thoughtful, then grinned and accepted the order. Then I sent another person to the Yun residence with an invitation, saying that I had offended Supervisor Yun yesterday, and was inviting him to come observe the flowers and listen to zither playing tonight. Over half a shichen later, the person who had delivered the invitation returned with Yunyu's response. He said he would certainly come. I had always liked Yunyu's temperament. Once a thing was over, that was the end of it. He wouldn't dwell on it, and it wouldn't get in the way of serious business. Toward evening, Yunyu was the first to arrive. He behaved just as usual, as if yesterday had never happened. Taking tea, he looked around and asked me, "Where is the zither?" I had to say, "You came ahead of it. You'll have to wait." Yunyu said, "I see," then said nothing else about it. I took him to the inner courtyard. Wine had been laid out on the veranda above the small courtyard where my bedroom was located. The 2 peony plants there were in perfect bloom. There was no zither for the present. I first poured the wine. As no one was around, I said, "Everything has been arranged in Shusho." Sorry, my computer tower was just making like a crack noise, and so I you better be okay. Smiling, Yunyu said, "No wonder your highness wanted me to travel via Shusho yesterday. Your highness holds the place in the palm of your hand." He dipped his finger in wine and dotted the table with it. Jingnan, Jingbei, Huanghua, Shinan, and Shibei have all been secured. Only Dongbei and the capital remain. He connected the dots of wine, turning them into a nearly complete circle. Pointed to the gap. Time to close the circle. Oh, hi, Mulmar's Rover. Welcome. We just started the new bit, so you're not missing much. They just confirmed that things are all arranged, and Yunyu and our main protag, Hua, are chatting in the garden, and Chu Shun is supposed to be coming with a zither, but he has not arrived yet. So they're talking about how everything is coming together and how it's time to close the circle. Yunyu wiped away the traces of wine on the table and continued. My father heard yesterday that Prince Shang and Prince Jia are both leaving the capital. Prince Jia seems to be headed to Shusho. Shusho was a strategically important location in the neighborhood of the Long River and the River Huai. That was why Wang Xin and Yun Tang attached such importance to it. I said, when Chengdian served under my father, he was in command of Dang Man for a few days. Dang Man was deputy general to Wang Zhang, commander of Shusho. Yunyu said, Presumably Prince Jia has taken these few days to command for the total muster tally. And perhaps, I said, he has taken Dangman for Wang Shang. Yunyu chuckled. They are putting me through my paces with all these vowels. The so-called total muster tally referred to a command tally my father had used in the army. When my father had led troops in defense of the border and scored a major victory over the barbarians, the Tongguang Emperor had ordered a set of flood dragon tallies forged for him. In all, 1 major tally and 8 minor tallies had been made. The major tally could mobilize his whole army, while the 8 minor tallies could dispatch 8 subordinate officers. By the Yingchang Emperor's time, most of the young generals and field officers who had served under my father had become high generals with authority over an entire region and large forces under the command. So members of the Loyalist Party, concerned for the nation and the people, said to the Yingchang Emperor that Prince Huai's flood dragon tally could now muster nearly all the military forces of the empire. That was when people began to speak of the total muster tally. Almost feel like I'm saying total mustard tally, and I'm like, that's not right. As a child, I played with this legendary set of tallies quite a bit. Even used them to dig up anthills. To use my mother's turn of phrase, deep down, my father was still a spoiled little prince. He was always going around dropping things and forgetting things, with no concept of the value of his possessions. When he wasn't at war, he would often leave the set of tallies here, there, and everywhere, and go searching for them all over the place when it came time to use them, putting his servants in a state of panic. I can understand why, if it can summon a whole army. The flood dragon on the major tally my father was meant to keep on his person at all times even had 1 blunted horn from the time I used it to pry stones out of a rockery. These guys really don't care at all about power. They're just like, it's cool. I had brought the flood dragon tally with the blunted horn to my father. He looked around while putting the tally away. With one hand stroking my head and the other covering my mouth, he whispered, "Don't tell your mother." It felt as if it was only yesterday. At the time, my father and I had been precisely where Yunyu and I were sitting now. That's kind of funny. You know who the real boss of the house is. Yunyu said, "Your Highness, how long are we going to sit here? When will the zither be here?" True. The evening glow had nearly faded. Why had Chengjun not come yet? The corners of Yunyu's mouth quirked up. So it was Chengjun's playing your Highness invited me to listen to. You have not gone to see him recently. Perhaps he will not come today because he is mad at you. My face spasmed helplessly. I was just about to speak when a servant came to announce that Chengjun was finally here. After all this time, Chengjun seemed all right. He came over with his zither in his arms and bowed. So your Highness wishes me to play for Supervisor Yun. When he had put his zither on the stand and was tuning it, a servant came again to announce that Chancellor Liu was here. Holding his wine cup, Yunyu smiled and said, "The full complement today." Kofton said, "Chancellor Liu is here in accordance with an imperial edict to persuade Hansi." He had not succeeded yesterday, so now that he had finished with today's work, he had come over to keep persuading. As I was serving wine here, it was only reasonable for me to invite Chancellor Liu to join us, just as it was only reasonable for him to send word to me that he had come around to counsel Hansi. I told Chief Steward Xiao to say to Liu Tongyi that I was in the rear courtyard enjoying the flowers and listening to the zither, and would Chancellor Liu be so kind as to join me for a drink. Chief Steward Xiao went to obey the order. Soon after, as Yunyu was holding back his sleeve to pour the wine, sound of footsteps approached. I looked up and saw a green robe. Next to Chief Steward Xiao, was Liu Tongyi. Chengjun knelt, and Yunyu stood to bow. Liu Tongyi said, "Imperial orders compel me to come here again to disturb your highness and Supervisor Yun as you enjoy the flowers and partake of wine. I hope that I have not spoiled the mood." Smiling, I said, "Of course not. It is my great fortune that I can use this coincidence to invite Chancellor Liu to join us." Another place had already been laid out for him to sit. I raised a hand and invited Liu Tongyi to take it. Liu Tongyi sat and drank a cup of wine, then stood and bade farewell. "I really am compelled by imperial orders. I cannot delay. Permit me to take my leave." "Chancellor Liu is under imperial orders and dare not stay long," Yunyu said. "But since we are here to enjoy the flowers and listen to the zither, you should at least hear a song before you go." I joined in asking him to stay, and Shushun also said, "I have not yet had the honor to perform before the Imperial Chancellor. I have long heard of Imperial Chancellor Liu's knowledge of music. Perhaps it will be possible for you to give me a few pointers today." With a helpless smile, Liu Tongyi said, "In that case, I will snatch a few more moments of leisure." Yunyu filled his wine cup. Shushun played a song as cheerful as running water. And when it was over, Liu Tongyi said with a smile, "You are skilled indeed." "The Imperial Chancellor flatters me," said Shushun respectfully. Suddenly, Yunyu said, "I have always heard that Chancellor Liu is a fine musician, but after all these years serving together at court, I have yet to experience it. Now that we are all assembled, if Chancellor Liu were willing to play a duet with young Master Shushun, that would be the most uncommon display of elegance." I was a little startled. Shushun said with a smile, "Supervisor Yun is so funny. How could the Imperial Chancellor play a duet with me?" Yunyu raised his eyebrows and said, "I was only joking. Nothing for Chancellor Liu to take so seriously." This seemed half joke and half challenge. I was just about to say something to get Liu Tongyi out of it when Liu Tongyi himself smiled calmly and said, "I'm afraid of embarrassing myself in front of young Master Chu. I would never dare to play the zither." He turned to me. "Does your highness have a flute here?" Why do I feel like it's a little bit of a hissy fit between Liu Tongyi and Yunyu? Like they're kind of picking up on some of the subtext going on. Sorry. I don't know. There's a weird tension here. I stared blankly, then quickly sent for one to be found. Luckily, while I know nothing of musical instruments, I still kept some at home for the sake of appearances. At least he's honest. Chief Steward Chiao led the search himself. After a long moment, he returned with a transversive flute of green jade and presented it to Liu Tongyi. Liu Tongyi took it and said, "If you insist," and Shushun once again pushed back his sleeves and strummed the strings of his zither. Its sound was like a rush of cool spring water. Sorry about that. Liu Tongyi put the flute to his lips. A thread of melody, like a slow evening breeze winding amidst the clouds, raised ripples on the spring. The evening glow was gone, leaving an ink-blue sky. The stars twinkled into view. Beyond the veranda, the twilight was profound, the flowers lavishly colored. There was nothing but the leisurely evening breeze and the wine in my cup, as limpid as spring water. Yunyu and I leaned back in our chairs, holding our wine cups. Amid the music of the flute and the melody of the zither, I was not intoxicated, yet I felt myself become so. At this moment, everything was like a drunken dream amid the dim twilight and the scent of flowers. It made one unwilling to wake. But, however unwilling, the time to leave the dream world would always come. The flute meandered to a stop, and the zither ended. Yun clapped and said, "Now that I have heard Chancellor Liu play, it will be 3 years before I dare listen to anyone else play the flute." "That is excessive praise, Supervisor Yun," Liu Tongyi said modestly. He drank another cup, then stood and said, "I truly cannot delay any longer. Your Highness, I will take my leave." I watched the dab of pale green leave the courtyard. In the past, I might have been doomed to spend this night tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. Nor had I been sleeping very well lately. Only now it was a different person keeping me from my slumbers. One second. When it was time for the night watches to begin, the influence of the wine had dispersed. Yun Yu said he was tired and went home to sleep, and Chu Shun, holding his zither, asked to leave as well. I saw Yun Yu off, ate a light snack, then went to bathe. After bathing, I remembered abruptly that Liu Tongyi had not yet come to say goodbye, so I called a servant over to the veranda and asked, "When did Chancellor Liu leave?" The page who answered said, "Your Highness, the Chancellor is still in the small hall talking to Hansi." He hadn't finished yet? So I strolled over to the small hall to look. When I reached the door, I happened to see Hansi kneeling and touching his head to the ground. "Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you, Chancellor." "No need," said Liu Tongyi. "I will inform His Majesty tomorrow. Everything I promised you will be done." It seemed that Liu Tongyi had at last prevailed. I stepped aside to stand on the veranda. Soon after, Liu Tongyi came out. I said, "You have truly been overtaxed lately, Chancellor Liu. Even such matters require your personal intervention." In the lamplight, Liu Tongyi's features were veiled with weariness. "It is my duty." As to how he had finally convinced Hansi, he had not yet reported to Chizzy, so he could not say, and I did not ask. Liu Tongyi was about to take his leave when I interjected. "You've spent all this time talking, Chancellor Liu. Have a cup of tea before you go." Like, I get it, that's a nice courtesy, but also the guy has been talking for literal hours and is tired and probably just wants to go home. Liu Tongyi and I entered the front hall together. When tea was brought, I said to him, "The tea kept ready here at night is always weak, with a couple of leaves floating in it for flavor. I worry I won't be able to sleep if the tea is strong. I don't know whether you will enjoy it." "I do always stay up late and often drink strong tea," Liu Tongyi said. "But weak tea is more suitable at night. While you are kept busy by affairs of state, you should still look after your health and go to sleep earlier. While you may not feel it now, if you are always expending your energy, over time it will damage your health." Ain't that the truth? Liu Tongyi thanked me with a smile, and I smiled as well, and then said, "I've inadvertently overstepped. It is a frequent problem I have. Please don't be offended, Chancellor Liu." I deliberately changed the subject. My habits of going to bed early and drinking weak tea were forced on me in my youth. My father liked to drink strong tea and potent wine, and my mother would not let him. The only thing to drink here at night was weak tea. I was ordered to go to bed as soon as the night watches began. I even imitated the ancients. On summer nights, I caught fireflies and kept them in gauze bags, hiding them inside my bed curtains and reading romances in secret, though they weren't very effective, as they didn't give enough light. That's kind of cute. "Yes," said Liu Tongyi, "and there are no heavy quilts in summer, so their light is hard to hide. I made do with moonlight to read, which was tiring for the eyes and cold in winter, so I couldn't read any more. Or else I removed the cover of a serious book and stuck it to the novel. Unfortunately, it was hard to make it stick to the binding." That's because you were too well behaved, I said with a smile. I went right to the bookbindery to have the books bound and spent a little extra to have them made to look like the 6 Secret Teachings or the 3 Strategies of Huang Shigong or some other books on warcraft. Even so, I was caught because the books were suspiciously new. Liu Tongyi laughed softly. My luck was a little better. My methods could not match up to your highnesses, but I never got caught. That was because you were good at learning your lessons, so no one would suspect you, I said. When I was little, my father made me read books on warcraft. He was stricter with me than any new soldier he trained. My father had once hoped that I would be like him, serve the court, expand the borders, defend our existing territory, and gallop through the passes. In bygone days, I had been forced to read books of warcraft, forced to practice the horse dance. I'd even toyed with spearcraft for a few days. Truly, the past did not bear thinking of. I went on, but later I was left to do whatever I liked. Once I had been beaten and scolded into studying warcraft and martial arts. When no one was there to compel me or mind me, the very first thing I felt was unbearable emptiness. Alas, the past is as fleeting as clouds. Liu Tongyi said. When I was little, I was in such a hurry to have no one to stop me from reading novels. But now that I can read them openly, I rarely feel as much interest as I did when I was young. Though no life can be perfect, when I occasionally recall my youth, the joys still outweigh the bitterness. You always speak so sensibly, Chancellor Liu, I praised him. Smiling, Liu Tongyi said, Perhaps I have not yet regained my wits after all that counseling. Your Highness must find it funny. He drank some more tea, put down his cup and stood. I have disturbed you long enough. I really must take my leave now. It was nearly the second watch of the night and much too late, so I made no more polite suggestions that he stay. I stood and saw Liu Tongyi out of the front hall. For some days, nothing of import took place. Chizi did not summon me to the palace. I only went on the Dragon Boat Festival, bearing a gift for the holiday. None of my older royal cousins had come, but my nephews were there in plenty. I sat down to a celebratory banquet in the palace, ate 2 zongzi, and drank some cups of real gar. I guess real gar wine. I was wondering if it was like a typo for regular wine, but real gar wine, with a whole crowd, after which I received no imperial command to keep me back for a private audience. I went home after the banquet ended. Hang on, I want to look up what real gar is. I've never heard of that. Let's see. What is real gar? Sorry. It's taking a minute. Real gar. Am I spelling it wrong? Okay. Real gar wine, also known as Xianghuang wine, is a traditional Chinese alcoholic drink made by infusing Huangjiu Chinese rice wine with powdered realgar, a yellow-orange arsenic sulfide mineral. It is consumed during the Dragon Boat Festival, a holiday celebrated on the 5th day of the 5th lunar month. Realgar wine is also used for topical applications such as painting children's foreheads and limbs with a realgar/alcohol slurry believed to ward off evil spirits or poisonous creatures. However, it's important to note that realgar is highly toxic and contains arsenic, posing a significant health risk. I noticed that it said arsenic sulfide, which I was like, that's poison. Oh, I'm pretty sure it's the kind of wine that Shengjun uses against the snack dude in Scum. Oh, is that what he used against Suzy Long? Like that the snake kind of couldn't handle it? Or was it a different dude? That would make sense. Oh, cool. It's the one of these. This is real Gar. So kind of like this. Here. Focus. That's a dark wine. Look how dark that is. Pretty dark. Snake. Yep. And Suzy Lang. Okay. Oh, might as well turn off my ringer. Real quick. That's kind of cool. Not so cool that it's poisonous, but you know. Okay. The next day, the 6th day of the 5th month, I received more news. I spent a long time deliberating on a course of action, then finally wrote a note to Yun Yu. When Yun Yu came, once we came to a place where we could talk privately, he asked whether I'd received certain word from Dong Bei. I said that, reasonably speaking, everything ought to be settled in Dong Bei, but I had not actually received word of it. Told Yun Yu that I had asked him here for a different reason. I feel like I gotta sneeze. There we go. Okay. The day was sunny and windless. A dry, dense heat had settled in the gazebo. I hesitated briefly, then asked Yun Yu. Suaya, about the valley in Shinan. Do you truly refuse to consider it? Thank you, Peacock Pages. I appreciate it. Yun Yu was fanning himself. When he heard this, he looked at me. I saw something a little strange in his eyes and expression. He just said, Your Highness, when my mind spun out of control. I cut him off and blurted out, Suaya, I'm going to tell you the truth. I love you. What is with him randomly confessing? Like, he really does not have great timing. Yun Yu, gripping his folding fan, looked at me. The fan did not move. His eyes did not move. His expression did not move. Altogether, he did not move. I had not planned on saying this, but I'd had a sudden feeling that if I did not say it now, I would never have another chance. There were many things I wanted to say, yet it also seemed I had nothing to say. My speech faltered. Hesitating again, I said, Suaya, I only told you to go because I didn't want you to be in danger. I would sooner kill myself than harbor any ulterior motive. Suaya. Yun Yu finally moved. He folded his fan. The corners of his mouth quirked up and he laughed. Your Highness has spoken of love to many people, and finally my turn has come. And just like that, there was absolutely nothing I could say. Like, he's not wrong. And it was true that I had said the same recently to Ranci. I had said these words to 2 people in total, once to Ranci and once to Yun Yu. I'd always longed for Ranci, but the Ranci I had longed for was not the real Liu Tongyi. Longed for Ranci, but the Ranci I had longed for was not the real Liu Tongyi, but a mirage floating among the clouds, something I had drawn in my mind. Like, that basically is an ancient times call-out post for this guy. Only when I woke from the dream did I understand what was really good for me. Looking back over these past years, the one who had joined me in drinking and diversions, who had talked to me and teased me, was Yun. No one had ever been so close to me before. Now there was only Yun, and perhaps there would never be anyone else. Sadly, even this truth was a sham. If I had not joined the rebellion under false pretenses, Yun would not have gotten close to me. One might also say that I had tricked Yun into friendship. After the 15th day of the 5th month, it was bound to all be gone. I couldn't think for the moment about what would come after, but I would rather have died myself than seen Yun killed. Yun was still smiling. In a careless tone he said, "Your Highness, with major events ahead of us, let us put aside other matters until we can return to them later. I've always said that, while it was fate that made me choose this path, I chose it willingly. Now that I am on it, I will follow it to the end." Right, LMAO. I agree, Peacock Pages. It has nothing to do with anyone else. I will always follow your Highness. I hope your Highness will soon ascend the throne and command the Empire. And I hope when that time does come, your Majesty will not forget the loyalty my father and I have shown today. The words, "Your Majesty," stabbed my ears like needles. Yun laughed again. "When that time comes, naturally the harem will be full of beauties of all kind, and I will not join in to dance attendance and add my own contribution." This stabbed my ears even harder. Even if I said to Yun there could be no one but you, he wouldn't believe me. It was true that if I had him, there could have been no other. Now I felt as if I was being boiled in a pot of oil in hell, but no one understood. I clutched Yun's sleeve. "Suaya, though what I have said today is absurd, it is truly what I feel. I, Jing Wei Yi, may not be a good man, but to me there is nothing to compare to you." Yun looked at me. Soon he chuckled again. "Your Highness is going to make me cry. Do you want to speak to Chancellor Liu again? Are you practicing your performance on me first?" I sheepishly released his sleeve. I had been holding on tight, and it was hot. I had broken out in a damp sweat all over, even in the palm of my hand. I coughed softly and said with a sheepish smile, "Perhaps it is just hot today, and I am dizzy from the heat." Yun looked at me earnestly and said, "Then your Highness ought to rest. The great event is before us. You must look after your health." Bowed slightly. "If there's nothing else, permit me to take my leave." When he turned and left, it made a small breeze. Before I could determine whether it was warm or cold, it was gone. And I can hear how muzzy my voice is right now. Hang on. I strolled back and forth a little in the gazebo, almost letting out a bitter laugh. It was a good thing Yun had taken it like this. I had understood him at Yuhua Pavilion. His behavior now meant he was past it. This was how it ought to have been all along. Only it seemed I really was not fated to love anyone. First it was Renzi, now Yun. The person who had been closest to me was also growing distant. Yun was unwilling to leave, but I still had methods available to me. The present situation was not one to weep over. Beneath the stagnant water, hidden currents and violet rapids massed. The waves were about to rise. Dun dun dun. Yun Yu came again, only to discuss everyone's movements with me. On the 8th day of the 5th month, provincial governments and military barracks everywhere were poised for action. The Wang and Yun clans had been operating for many years, the depths of which their roots were entrenched and the breadth of which their branches and leaves spread far outstripped my imagination. North, south, east, and west, each prefecture and every province. In virtually all parts of the nation, they had someone they could command. That's terrifying. Our partition existed between the empire's civil and military officials, so they could not interfere with each other. I had thought that Wang Qin and Yun Tang had mainly civil officials at their disposal. I was slowly realizing now that they could mobilize many soldiers as well. This spate of uprooting would open up so many fine vacancies from the court to the local governments. Did not know whether the Ministry of Justice's prison would be able to hold all of those who vacated them. On the 12th day of the 5th month, I showed Wang Shun a tally. I figured that Yun Tang and Wang Qin would be too delighted to sleep that night. That tally commanded 20,000 mounted imperial guards in the vicinity of the capital. 10,000 palace guards and 20,000 mounted guards defended the capital. The palace guards could only be mobilized with the emperor's seal, but the 20,000 mounted guards were under joint control by the commander-in-chief, the minister of war, and a number of other officials in important military posts. The minister of war and commander-in-chief Li Jiang each had half of an emergency tally that could make up a whole. In an emergency situation, the tally could temporarily mobilize the whole force. At the end of the 14th day of the 5th month, the night sky was wide, the stars were bright, and the moon was just a sliver from full. When the night watches began, Huai Manor was very quiet. The whole capital must have been very quiet. I did not know how many pairs of eyes like mine were watching the moon, waiting for the new day to begin at the hour of the rat. Uh-oh. That is the end of chapter 5, which I should have finished last week, but did not happen. Sorry again about that, guys. I'm going to grab my sweater real quick, then we'll get started on chapter 6, where all the action's probably going to start. No matter how hot it gets outside, this basement always gets so cold. That's why oversized sweaters are the best. Okay, chapter 6. At the hour of the rat, I saw a firework go up in the southeast of the capital. This was the signal to begin. According to my arrangements with Yun Tang and Wang Xin, at the hour of the rat, with fireworks as a signal, Minister of War Chang Bo and Yun Tang's nephew, Yun Huan, would head 10,000 soldiers as they took the area around the capital. Li Jian and Wang Xuan would lead 10,000 more into the city and join Wang Qin's 3,000 palace guards. It was precisely because of those 3,000 palace soldiers that I had made use of the 20,000 mounted guards at the risk of being implicated. I really had no idea what kind of foolishness that idiot woman, the Empress Dowager, had been getting up to for these last few years. That's kind of harsh. Before Chizzy's personal rule had begun, she had outwardly yielded to me and the other old Imperial uncles while secretly excluding us. She took those of us with the surname Jing to be untrustworthy and had assumed that she could rely upon those with her own family name. That old goose, Prince Jia, was steadfast to a fault. He'd put on a spectacle of loyalty at a critical juncture. He had only 3,000 palace guards under his command. After his squabble with this house sparrow, he transferred his power over these 3,000 to the Empress Dowager, resigned his post, and went home to write poetry. Neither side gained by his action. He had wept bloody tears of indignation, and I'd spat blood from an internal wound. To no one's great surprise, when it came time for Chizzy to take up the reins of power, those 3,000 palace guards were seized by the Empress Dowager's family and did not come under Chizzy's control. The Empress Dowager's family, like herself, had neither the moral fiber to be loyal nor the wit to be traitors. Those guards became Wang Qin's for the taking. As 30,000 soldiers were stationed in the capital, 3,000 palace guards were insufficient to take the palace easily. So Yun Tang and Wang Qin had held out for many years. Minister of War Cheng Bo was leaving office and retiring at the end of the year. Li Jian would also be transferred elsewhere. Those who had done battle alongside my father and lived through the reign of 3 emperors were all now getting on in years. To the court and the people, it was a blessing that there had been no war for many years. The sole modest drawback was that conditions did not exist to create a general to whose command tens of thousands of warrior soldiers would be willing to submit to. With Cheng Bo and Li Jian respectively retiring and leaving, it was truly hard to say whose hands command over the mounted guards would fall into. So we kind of saw a little bit of this in Golden Terrace, where the handing off of command kind of has a little bit of a finicky bit because it was a little more personal based, kind of. Even I had heard it said that the minor military officials were always locked in combat with each other, and it was a good thing Li Jian was there to keep control of the situation. The worst outcome was that his successor would fail to keep control, and true power would ebb away bit by bit, creating an opportunity for others to exploit. So they kind of stated it there. If the power's not passed over correctly, you'd just basically be a figurehead, or someone else would come and take the reign from you easily. Yun Tang and Wang Shen's years of patient waiting had been in expectation of just this opportunity. Grand Tutor Yun's pupils could be found throughout the court and the commons. There was little overlap in the scope of authority of civil and military officials, which made it convenient for them to cooperate. Everyone who had ever served in an official capacity understood this. If Yun Tang's pupils colluded with the minor military officials, in the future it might mean not merely 3,000 palace guards, but soldiers numbering in the tens of thousands. Although to Yun Tang and Wang Qin, this game piece posed no small danger. So with Cheng Bo and Li Jian's unwillingness to hand over power as a pretext, I'd use the near certainty of taking those 20,000 mounted troops as bait. Yun Tang and Wang Qin were naturally beside themselves with joy. According to our arrangements, with 10,000 mounted guards and 3,000 palace guards acting together inside and out, the hour of the ox, I would arrive in front of the palace, lead an assault, capture Chizzy, and seize the throne. I honestly have no idea how this is going to go and how he's going to spin this as him not actually leading a revolt, because he's the one who gave them, it sounds like, the majority of the troops right now. So, like, what's he gonna show up? Just be like, kidding. Didn't mean it. What you talk about? Like, just keeping you on your toes, nephew. It was more than halfway to the hour of the ox, past midnight. I was fully dressed, prepared to go out. What Yun Tang and Wan Qin did not know was that at this very moment the officials who had been ready to rise in answer to this rebellion would already be bound or executed. During the banquet for the Dragon Boat Festival, numerous princes had been absent because they had already left the capital. Only Prince Zhang would be left. The list I had given Yun Tang and Wang Xin of people to join in the conspiracy contained nothing but ministers who were loyal, heart and soul. The Emperor and Empress Dowagers should not have doubted me so much, and Yun Tang and Wang Xin should not have thought so highly of me. Total muster tally, secret power, it was all fake. In reality, I was empty-handed. I hadn't a shred of power. I had to ask for favors, get help to make this happen. What these people had sworn to serve with loyalty unto death was not my departed father, and not any military tally, but the empire of the Jing family and its lasting peace. I was now to go openly to meet Yun Tang and Wang Xin. I would have to carry on the performance of rebellion a little longer. I have a feeling this is going to backfire terribly on this man. I changed into a casual robe, hung a sword from my belt, and led a group to the rear courtyard, ready to mount and head out. Suddenly, a series of thumps came from atop the rear courtyard wall, and a few people tumbled down. My attendants drew their weapons. From the shadows at the base of the wall came a weak voice. "Your Highness?" It was Yun Yu's voice. I stepped forward quickly. Yun Yu's face was sickly pale in the moonlight. My heart tightened, and I hastily said, "Suaya?" Yun Yu had a hand pressed to his left arm. Softly he said, "Your Highness, I am afraid things have gone awry." Gone awry? I distinctly recall arranging with Prince Zhang that the time to act would be when we rushed the palace, when Yun Tang and the others were all out in the open. Why had things gone awry now? Had Li Jian been too impetuous? Yun Yu laughed bitterly. Perhaps information got through the Imperial's guards. In the palace and the city, there were ambushes laid. As for the mounted guards, they too... It appeared that Chizzy had made his own provisions in addition to Prince Zhang's. "The situation is hopeless," Yun Yu said slowly. "There is no chance of success. Those are all Jing Chizzy's men outside." "Grand Tutor Yun and Wang Xin?" I asked. Yun Yu said nothing. The faint sound of fighting outside the walls gradually intensified. Yun Yu laughed very softly. "I never thought your Highness and I would really die together." I grabbed hold of his sleeve. "Not necessarily." Pulling Yun Yu after me, I hastened on to the floaty walkway leading to the waterside pavilion. I had left all the manor's people in the courtyard to put up a show of resistance. In the silence, there was only myself and Yun Yu. In the waterside pavilion, I groped in the dark and took 2 lanterns from a bookshelf. I got out a fire stick and lit one of them, passed it to Yun Yu, then pushed the bookshelf. With a creak, a trapdoor opened. Holding the lantern, Yun Yu stood at the edge of the trapdoor. "So your Highness was prepared." "How could I do a risky thing like this without leaving myself an escape?" I said. Carrying the other lantern, I slowly went down a flight of earthen steps into the opening. Yun Yu followed me. I flipped a mechanism on the right-hand wall, closing the trapdoor. The long flight of steps extended downward. Taking the stairs for long periods was difficult for me. Taking them one step at a time, The descent was interminable. Interminable? Yunyu said, "Do these stairs go to the bottom of the lake?" "Precisely," I said. "That would freak me out." "Yeah, we're walking below a lake." "No." When we came down the final step, ahead of us was a winding path, so dark it seemed to have no end. At a bend in the passage, I picked up a bundle. "This contains water, dry provisions, and money. We'll go slowly. The path is a long one." Yunyu hardly said a word the whole way. The other lantern had to be kept in reserve, and the single burning one wasn't very bright. It only lit the path a few paces ahead. The swaying flame made the shadows sway as well. The sounds of our breathing was unusually clear. Yunyu's left arm had been injured and hastily bandaged. Blood was still seeping through the bandages. I didn't know what to say to him. Anything I said would be false. I very much wanted to ask Yunyu why he had come to me. Yun Tang and Wen Qin must also have left themselves means of escape. Since Yunyu had been able to flee, why would he have come to Huai Manor? Originally, I'd planned to use this passage after I had met Yun Tang and the others and left to Prince Zhang the righteous work of eradicating the rebels. I would feign flight, taking Yunyu with me by this path. After walking for some unknown length of time, Yunyu's footsteps faded. I asked if he was tired, and Yunyu nodded. He lowered himself to the ground, supporting himself with his right arm. In the lamplight, he bent his head and closed his eyes. Well, he's probably suffering from minor blood loss at this point. I was concerned that he had other injuries beside the one to his arm. I took his hand and felt his pulse. Yunyu opened his eyes. "Your Highness knows how to take a pulse?" "At least I should be able to tell if it's weak or strong, fast or slow," I said. Yunyu laughed softly and pulled his hand away. I looked for something else to say to him. "I've only taken this path once. It truly feels like it will never end." "Just as well if it doesn't," Yunyu said calmly. I looked intently at him. Yunyu turned his eyes to look at me. "Is your Highness afraid that Jing Chizi's men will find this place and come after us?" He closed his eyes again. He seemed weary. "Just as well if they do." After a brief rest, we continued on ahead. I told Yunyu the history of this secret passage in fits and starts. An ancestor of my father's mother's family, that is to say, of my great-grandfather, had made his living as a bricklayer. This ancestor had saved enough money that he was able to contribute in a famine year to secure his family's rights to a bureaucratic post. Unexpectedly, among his descendants, a scholar did emerge to succeed in the imperial examinations. Gradually, his descendants took on more and more important positions until my great-grandfather's day. He obtained a government position very much in line with his ancestral occupation, Minister of Revenue. My great-grandfather was a timid and cautious man, he thought that having risen to this post with his daughter in the palace as a consort, his family's fortunes had reached their peak, and after this would come the so-called decline following prosperity. In order to keep the family line from ending, he wanted to create an escape route. Though his way of creating an escape route was rather a little unusual. He drew an architectural plan himself and began working on excavating the secret passage. First, he dug a big lake in his rear courtyard. At the heart of the lake, he built an island. Then he had the secret passage to travel under the lake in order to leave the manor. The secret passage was very long, and it had to be built in secret. He anonymously purchased some houses along the planned route. At different times, he brought in groups of workers to dig in each house. The diggers thought it was an ordinary tunnel and had no idea where it led. When the passage was finally complete, he had the holes in those houses filled in. Only the exit and the entrance on the island in the center of the lake remained. Oh, for a second I thought he was going to have like a bunch of escape houses, but I guess each one you have makes it less secure. So I get it. Digging this passage was very hard going. The work was only finished after he had passed. When my father's maternal uncle resigned his post and retired to the country, he left the house to my father. It was then expanded and renovated into Huai Manor. This was a long story. I told it in snatches and bursts. Occasionally, we stopped to rest our feet and drink a bit of water, or even eat a few bites. When I finished the story, I guessed that we should be close to the exit. Sure enough, after a few more turns, the clay brick walls on either side gave way to limestone brick, and the passage narrowed until it was just wide enough for a single person to pass. After another 2 or 3 turns, it abruptly opened again. Yun Yu hoisted the lantern to illuminate our surroundings. He and I were standing in a square stone room with faint writing on one wall. I don't suppose your Highness's great-grandfather left behind a treasure map or a tell-all, said Yun Yu. He went to the wall and lifted the lantern to look. The writing was coated with dust, but still legible. There were 2 lines of writing carved into the wall. The first one was written in a beautiful, free-flowing hand. It said, "The world is wide, freedom lies beyond." It must have been written by my great-grandfather or great-uncle. The other line was strong and vigorous. "Those who make use of this room must reflect, be chastened, strive for better." I knew at once, just with a glance, that this handwriting belonged to my father, the previous Prince Huai. I reached out to press down on the stone table at the center of the room. The part of the wall with the writing about the wide world slowly revolved like a door, revealing a gap. Yun Yu and I passed through the stone door together. Before us was another passage. I shut the door and said to Yun Yu, "Oh, my goodness. I swear, I had a monster right before this. I do not know why I'm yawning so much, and I am so sorry." Yun Yu and I passed through the stone door together. Before us was another passage. I shut the door and said to Yun Yu, "Now there is no turning back, even if we wanted to. The doors in this tunnel, except for the one in the waterside pavilion, only open one way." At the end of the passage was a flight of stairs, winding up. The top of these were another room. I flipped the mechanism and pushed open the hidden door in the wall. When we stepped out, the stone door rumbled close behind us. Above our heads came the sound of flapping wings. This seemed to be made by bats and some variety of large moth. Ahead of us was the hazy gleam of moonlight, not midnight. This was a cave halfway up a small mountain near the capital. Holding Yun Yu by the sleeve, I left the cave. It was still dark out. The lantern flame attracted winged insects and moths, which clustered around it. As soon as we left the mouth of the cave, Yun Yu extinguished the lantern. I took him by a small path skittering a cliff face. By moonlight, the way was just visible. At the end of the cliff face, the path zigzagged straight up, narrow and precipitous. One had to choose one's step carefully, but one could not be too slow. Took us high up. When we looked back at the capital, half the sky was glowing a dim, fiery red. I did not know what the situation was there, whether the emperor had purged Yun Tai or Yun Tang, Wang Xin, and the other rebels, whether he had sent soldiers in pursuit of Yun Yu. My servants only knew that I had taken Yun Yu to an inner courtyard, but a number of attendants had been keeping an eye on the people who had come with Yun Yu. They likely had no idea that I had taken him to the waterside pavilion. Even if someone guessed there was a secret passage in Huai Manor, it would still take time to search for it. I did not know whether Prince Xiang had reported my part in this to Chizzy. Probably he would have had a hard time explaining why I had run away with Yun Yu. The fact that I was a spy was known only to Prince Xiang. That's kind of dumb. I had no power of my own, no basis on which to plot with Yun Yang and Wang Xin. I'd had to rely on outside help. But Chizzy of all people couldn't know about it. There were too many eyes and ears in the palace. Something would have got out. I had to go to Prince Xiang. None of my father's old comrades in arms liked me. They thought I had thoroughly disgraced the title of Prince Huai. If I said a rebellion was brewing, they wouldn't believe me. But they would accord Prince Xiang a certain degree of deference. Prince Xiang investigated the ins and outs of the rebellion. They would believe it. Outwardly, Prince Xiang would deliberate with the emperor and the honest officials on how to quell the internal strife. But in secret, I would be the one really taking action. In borrowing those 20,000 mounted guards, I had thrown a particular risk. Cheng Bo and Li Jian were both devoted heart and soul to the emperor. No one but Chizzy could mobilize those 20,000 mounted guards. But I needed them to lure out Yun Tang and Wang Xin. For lack of other options, I had to say to Prince Xiang, "Go report to His Majesty that Prince Huai wants to usurp the throne and intends to take Huai Manor's military tally to Changbo and Li Jian. Would His Majesty please order Changbo and Li Jian to play along for the moment?" Originally, I could have demonstrated my innocence by changing sides at the last moment when it came time for the assault on the palace. But now, in order to protect Yun Yu, I had set all that aside for the moment. The end of the path was the mountaintop, and on the mountaintop was a thatched cottage. I opened the door to the cottage, then felt around and pulled a wooden box out from under the bed facing the door. To Yun Yu, I said, "These are clothes, shoes, and supplies here. Take the path down the mountain, and there will be a place to buy horses by the roadside." In a calm voice, Yun Yu said, "Where will we be met?" I took out a map and put it in Yun Yu's hands. "Follow the route on this map. It will be hard for the Emperor's soldiers to pursue you. You can keep this." Yun Yu folded up the map and put it away. Then I took out a jade pendant and gave it to him too. "When you reach Shusho, there will be someone to meet you. Go to Yuan Alley and find Yuan San's wine shop. You'll have to produce this jade token in order to get to the place in Sinan." Yun Yu put the jade pendant away too. "Get changed," I said. "I'll go have a look around." I left the cottage and stood at the cliff edge. To the east there was already a faint burst of blue. Soon it would be daybreak. I was deliberating whether I ought to go with Yun Yu or stay. Sooner or later, Yun Yu had to know that I was a spy. I couldn't bear to think about how he would take it when he found out. He probably already knows, man. I only wished to keep him safe as long as I lived, whether he hated me or wanted me to die. I had done what I had to as a loyal courtier. The throne was Chizzy's, and so was the empire. To the best of my ability, I had done right by Chizzy. Now, there was no one in my heart but Suaya. I mean, I guess, yeah, you do what you gotta do, but still. I heard footsteps behind me. I looked back. It was Yun. He hadn't changed his clothes. He came up beside me. I frowned. Suaya, why have you... Looking towards the horizon, Yun said, "Too bad that this effort fell through at the last moment. I wonder when it will be possible to make another attempt." I laughed bitterly. I don't suppose it will ever be possible. Yun looked at me. Isn't this escape route a secret game piece? I didn't end up telling him that I had been a spy. I only sighed and then said, I risked everything on this single throw, committed all my people. This escape route was only meant to save my life. I looked at him with profound intensity. Suaya, would you be willing from here on out to live with me as ordinary commoners secluded from the world? Yun looked again at the horizon. With a soft sigh, he said, My thanks to your highness for the favor you have shown me, but I was just about to tell him that there was no reason to be so formal when suddenly Yun moved. There was a flash of light in front of my eyes as a sword wrapped in the cool thin air of dawn came to a halt next to my neck. I froze. Firelight blared up all around me. Behind the cottage and among the trees, countless torches seemed to light up in an instant, and countless clusters of black figures appeared as though through stagecraft. In the blink of an eye, they had me and Yun surrounded. In the wind on the mountaintop, Yun's sleeve flew upward as his hand held the sword. The armed soldiers parted, and two people slowly emerged from the crowd. One, dressed in imperial robes with the imperial crown on his head, was my nephew, Chizzy. Yeah, this guy really has terrible luck. So bad. So bad. The other, wearing a dark blue robe of office, his expression calm, was Liu Tongyi. Oh, and it gets worse. Oh. I heard Liu Tongyi's voice say, Rebel Prince Jiang Wei Yi, there is no escape. Submit and be apprehended. Chizzy looked my way with inexplicable apprehension and concern in his eyes. Could it be that Yun had realized I was a spy, and in order to protect me, Chizzy and Renzi were putting on an act? My hand moved on its own accord. Then I heard Chizzy blurt something out apprehensively. You look out! My vision blurred. Among the crowd, I could not find Prince Zhang. Wait. He said IU, like A-YU. So wouldn't that be Yun? My vision blurred. Among the crowd, I could not find Prince Zhang. Yunyu's smile was very clear in the firelight. Your Highness Prince Huai, will you surrender yourself, or will I use my sword while you pull me off the cliff edge so we can meet our ends together? I had just realized that the place Yunyu and I were standing was extremely close to the edge. If I grabbed hold of him and leapt, we would fall off the cliff together. Chizzy slowly said, Jiang Wei Yi, as you are our Imperial Uncle, if you surrender, we will show mercy and let you live. The silence around us seemed to last a lifetime. Yeah, I feel you. Peacock Pages. No! I closed my eyes and sighed. Even an insect clings to life. I hope that your majesty can follow through. I opened my eyes and said to Yoon Yu, Supervisor Yoon, it is very dangerous for us to stand so close to the edge. If one of us loses his footing, we'll go plummeting down. My death would be more than merited, but the account does not balance with you added in. Let us back away a little. If His Majesty does not trust me, he can order a soldier to come forward and bind me. Then Supervisor Yoon can lower his sword. There was another silence. Then two of the soldiers dashed forward and bound me tightly. The sword was finally lowered. I saw Yoon Yu toss the sword away and turn towards the crowd. Chizzy took a step forward. In the firelight, their eyes met. The expression on Yoon Yu's face and in his eyes changed. I had never seen him with such an expression. Are they? Chizzy took another step forward. Ayu, is your arm wounded? Where did this come from? He raised his hand. Yoon Yu took a step back and looked at him. The firelight shone in his eyes. Then he cast his gaze down. Your Majesty, I have done all that I promised to do. I hope that Your Majesty will also remember what you once promised me. Chizzy looked into his eyes. We never go back on our promises. We promised you that we would not kill Yoon Tang. We're in public and you two are making eyes at each other. Shouldn't you show a little restraint? Thank you, Your Majesty, said Yoon Yu. As the son of a traitorous minister, would it not be appropriate by law for me to be taken to the Ministry of Justice's prison to await trial as well? Chizzy sighed. Why must you always be so... Perhaps it would have been unsuitable for him to finish this lament in front of so many people. He swallowed it, then said, It is through your contributions that the rebel prince Jiang Wei-yi has been apprehended. We have always been fair in meting out reward and punishment. It was Chancellor Liu's stratagem, said Yoon Yu. I would not dare claim all the credit for myself. So they both played him, and he wasn't even trying to play? Oh, God. The firelight, the soldiers, and myself, all relegated to a secondary position, seemed a little superfluous. Chizzy turned and looked at me. He frowned. Jing Wei-yi, we have never understood why you would rebel. Even if your rebellion succeeded, according to the traditional structures handed down from our ancestors, you would be unable to occupy the throne with your physical defect. In this world, the victor is king. There are no definite structures to obey. It's for the traditional structure that one with a physical defect cannot be emperor. If the ancients could decide it, why could it not be changed today? Why can a cripple like me not be emperor? Chizzy raised his eyebrows. You have always thought very highly of yourself, Imperial Uncle. Why doesn't he just say, dude, I went along with the plot thinking that I was helping you, not knowing I was being double played? Like, can he not just... He says so many other things. You are too kind, Imperial Nephew, I said. There was a fetid chill in the Ministry of Justice's prison. My cell was not an ordinary one. A single door led to a passage with guards stationed down its length and 4 cells opening onto it. I had been taken to the innermost one. The cell was spacious enough, with a brick bed against one wall, which was fully supplied with bedding. There was a wooden table in the middle of the cell and only a single ventilation hole in the wall. He's allergic to honesty unless he is confessing his love. It's sad but true, Mars Rover. The cell had no window, so no way of telling time. An oil lamp burned, a deep yellow, shedding insufficient light. In a corner was a commode with nothing to screen it from view. There was no way to avoid being observed during urination and bowel movements. That is what it means when there's no screen. I had been stripped of my outer robe and dressed in prisoner's garb. My hands and feet were both fettered. The iron chains were as thick as table legs. The end of the chain from the fetters on my feet were nailed fast to the wall between the end of the bed and the commode. The length of the chain was perfectly calculated, just long enough to let me sleep, use the commode, and eat at the table. Beyond the table, it would not reach. When I had spent about half a day in prison and the light coming through the ventilation hole was still bright, I had a visitor. Unexpectedly, it was Chengjun. I hadn't thought he would come and even be the first. I was a rebel and newly arrested. What kind of connections had he called in to come see me? Chengjun stood outside the bars looking at me from a distance. I stood up from the bed and walked a couple of steps forward, dragging my fetters. Ami, what are you doing here? I'm a traitor now. You should go. Chengjun's expression was unreadable in the dim light. Your Highness, when I look at you now, an expression comes to mind. I stared at him. What? Slowly, Chengjun said, Heaven's net has wide meshes, but nothing escapes it. Chengjun said, Your Highness, I have told Chancellor Liu of the location in your bedroom where the secret letters and accounts are hidden, and I have given him the key. I made a mold of it when I was at the manor. Everyone's just kind of fucking this guy over. Like, oh my goodness. Chengjun said, Prince Huai, do you think I wouldn't guess who it was that forced me to enter Twilight House? Just because I refused to flatter you with a crook of the finger, you left me no choice but to become a prostitute. I was silent. So this was what Chengjun had thought all along. Since you guessed, I said, would it not have been faster to kill me in bed? Chengjun sneered. Seriously? Now I'm getting mad at this guy. Like, do you get off on just, like, accidentally playing the villain? Like, yes, I am taking credit for terrible things that I have not done. Like, why? Chengjun sneered. How could I let you off that easy? I wanted to see you suffer the wrath of heaven, to take your just punishment. I should be dead. I should have died when I went to Twilight House. These last couple of years, I haven't considered myself a human being. Done inhumane things. At last, I've lived to see this day. And you're not even getting justice because he didn't do shit. Oh my god. After Chengjun left, when the light in the ventilation hole had disappeared, then returned, Qi Li, Qi Hang, Qi Sang, Qi Qian, Qi Fei, and my other imperial and royal nephews came one after another to say it. It's rather silly of him, but I suppose that nobody would believe him anyway. I get it, Mo Mars Rover, but like the fact that he doesn't even try drives me a little insane. Like just a little, like, who knows? Maybe one of the people would give him the benefit of the doubt and like actually look into it. But instead he's like, yes, I did do that. Yes, you are correct. It's like a self-imposed miscommunication trope. Oh my god. Yeah, it kind of is, Peacock Pages. Qi Fei and Qi Tan were the first wave. I remember that over a decade ago, just after my father's death, when I fell off a horse and broke my leg, Qi Tan and the other children often called out, Lame little Imperial Uncle. Lame little Imperial Uncle, and pretended to limp as they followed me around. That's real shitty. I was young then and couldn't help but find these sights and sounds unpleasant. Of course you would. It's rude as hell. My mother told me that the malice of children was innocent. Later, I went to the palace one day with an oxhorn pendant my father had brought back hanging from my belt. The little princes tailing after me eyed it avidly. While I passed down a corridor, Qi Tan jumped out from behind a pillar, crouched at my feet, grabbed the oxhorn pendant, and looked at me with wide eyes. I want it. So I untied the pendant. Chiton smiled happily, showed off a missing front tooth, and extended his hands. Thank you, lame little Imperial Uncle. I raised my hand with a pendant in it. What did you call me? Chiton rose on tiptoe, desperately trying to reach high enough. Then he grabbed hold of my robe and blinked. Thank you, little Imperial Uncle. I handed him the pendant. Chiton took it delightedly and even let me pet him on the head. Even then, he was a punk. This was how I had bought off most of my Imperial nephews, bit by bit. Now that I was in the Imperial prison, yet they still did not avoid me and came to visit and called me Imperial Uncle. Even if it was just for old time's sake, I still thought that it had been worth it. Chiton was repeatedly saying to me, Imperial Uncle, why did you have to revolt? Why did you have to revolt? Over and over countless times. Probably could not think of anything to say apart from this. Chief Fei sighed and said, After eldest Imperial Uncle was shot with an arrow, he pleaded with His Majesty. He told my Imperial brother not to kill you no matter what. The old fellow stopped a sniper's arrow for His Majesty, and the arrow was poisoned. Now his life hangs in the balance. No one knows whether he will wake. For eldest Imperial Uncle's sake, my Imperial brother will probably show you a bit of lenience. Okay, so the other guy did not necessarily betray him. Prince Zhang, or whatever. Oh, so that was it. Prince Zhang had been shot and was unconscious. Heaven really did seem to be toying with me. When they had been there quite some time, Chief Fei hesitantly stammered out. Imperial Uncle, about Yoon, and I thought you knew. I couldn't answer. Lowering my voice, Chief Fei said, Oh, Imperial Uncle, why didn't you think? Yoon Tang is the Grand Tutor, and Yoon Yu often played with us when we were little. There was a suggestion once that Yoon Yu should be my Imperial brother's study companion. I think it must have been my Imperial brother who brought it up. But Yoon Yu is older than him, so it never panned out. It isn't just Imperial Uncle, said Chiton. We played together all the time, and I had no idea. Well, yeah, you didn't. You were trying to push them together. Not everybody is as perceptive as you. Now that I think about it, it's true. Those knickknacks from Imperial Uncle's house, when he presented them to our Imperial brother, he gave them all to that one. Yoon Yu really had sometimes come to Huai Manor with my Imperial and Royal nephews in the past, but I hadn't taken much notice then. Now that I thought about it, Chizzy wasn't particularly interested in ornaments. Perhaps he was always staring at them because Yoon Yu wanted them. So it was a predestined love between innocent playmates. Is it? Like, Yoon Yu, like, we noticed something was a bit off by him. Do they actually like each other? Like the prince and him, or the emperor and him, or is he doing another play? We could not speak further about this, so we sat in silence a while. Then Chi Fei and Chiton left. Just as he was leaving, Chiton said to me, Imperial Uncle, my Imperial brother said he won't kill you. Sorry. Imperial Uncle, my Imperial brother said he won't kill you. When they question you, don't say anything. Repent sincerely. We'll plead with our Imperial brother and maybe... What's done is done, I said. It is too late to speak of repentance. Chi Fei and Chiton looked at me again, then left, sighing heavily. When the light in the ventilation hole was gone again, and I was dipping dry mantou buns in water, a crowd of guards clustered around a person that appeared outside the bars of my cell and opened the cell door. Put down the dry mantou and looked up. Chancellor Liu. The clerk behind Liu Tongyi held a rectangular lacquer tray with a brush, ink, inkstone, and a stack of papers laid out on it. Smiling, I said, Chancellor Liu, you're having me sign my name and make my mark without interrogating me at trial? Liu Tongyi mentioned for the clerk to set the lacquer tray on the table. The clerk withdrew from the cell along with the guards. Liu Tongyi sat down at the table across from me. So Chancellor Liu is planning a nocturnal interrogation of the traitor. I put the bowl and plate on the table, onto the floor, straightened my clothes, and said with a smile, "Go ahead and ask whatever you'd like, Chancellor Liu." Liu Tongyi looked at me in the lamplight. Slowly, he said, "I could never understand why your highness would want to rebel." "Chancellor Liu," I said, "ask whatever you'd like to know directly. There's no need to be too subtle. You have known about my plans for a long time. How could you have failed to guess the reason?" He must have worked it out in order to be certain that I would rebel. He could only draw up a plan once he was certain. When Yun Tang and Wang Xin came to me seeking a co-conspirator, when Yun Yu first approached me, Liu Tongyi was not yet Imperial Chancellor. Perhaps it was because of this very stratagem that he had attained his position. Liu Tongyi said, "When Wang Xin secretly obtained command over those palace guards, His Majesty became aware of his intent to rebel. Later, he found evidence that Yun Tang was also involved and intended to rope in your highness. I was Chamberlain of the Court of Judicial Review at the time and investigated this matter at His Majesty's bidding. So you presented this stratagem and arranged this game, planning it for years, with Yun Yu as a game piece." Liu Tongyi looked at me quietly. After a while, he inclined his head slightly. "Yes. Having a planted agent was my decision." I sighed and then said, "If I'd known of this before, when I longed for you, I ought to have washed my head, cut it off, and presented it to you on a platter. Perhaps you might have spared me a look. It would have saved many people trouble." Liu Tongyi said nothing. "Chancellor Liu's investigation into my hobby was very precise. Thank you for arranging to give me Chu Shun in order to eradicate my cabal. You had Yun Yu feign friendship with me for so many years, and sent Chu Shun to Twilight House. In bed and out of bed, I have been well looked after." Finally, Liu Tongyi's expression became troubled. "I didn't send Chu Shun to you." With his affections at Mount Wu engaged, what needs King Xiang in dreams to seek Jiangnan, I said. "Thank you for the gift of those words, Chancellor Liu." With his affections at Mount Wu engaged, what needs King Xiang in dreams to seek Jiangnan? When he had said these words to me that day in the waterside pavilion, what had Liu Tongyi's intentions been? So in regards to that, Mount Wu is said to be wreathed in clouds, and Jiangnan is popularly associated with its willows. Yu's surname is Cloud, and Liu Tongyi's is Willow. Liu Tongyi didn't say a word. After a long moment, he finally said, "I really didn't send Chu Shun to you. Though I'm not nice about my tactics, I still would not sink to such a ploy. It's meaningless to quibble about it now. I am a prisoner. The guilty must be punished. There is only one thing I still do not understand. How did His Majesty and Chancellor Liu know about the exit to that secret passage?" Liu Tongyi and Yun Yu had each only gone to that waterside pavilion just the once. They could not have known of the secret passage. Liu Tongyi said that the princess had told the Empress Dowager about the secret passage long ago, and the Empress Dowager in turn had told the Emperor. So it was while the princess was brooding and having daily clandestine liaisons in the waterside pavilion that she had inadvertently discovered the secret passage. Perhaps the father of the child in the princess's belly had even escaped that way. I sighed. How thorough you were. There really was no escape for me. I picked up my bowl of water from the floor and wet my throat. Didn't you want to know why I wanted to usurp the throne? I recall telling you that in my youth I read books on warcraft. There There were high hopes placed on me. Later, I fell off a horse and broke my left leg, leaving it lame, and those hopes vanished. Everyone thought I was a hopeless case. Everyone thought that Jing Wei Yin had thoroughly disgraced the title of Prince Huai. So, I wanted to do something great so the whole world would know that, even with a physical defect, I could still accomplish a great task. All that had come before stemmed from those vain delusions, the foolish concepts of a cripple. Suddenly, I was a little afraid that Prince Zhang would wake. In the present, at least, I was a scheming prince who had made an ultimately unsuccessful attempt to usurp the throne. If the truth were revealed, what would I have left? Nothing at all. I would be a clown with nothing to my name. Alright, I kind of get it, but it's still really shitty. Like, it's so dumb. Like, just... I took the stack of papers and flipped through them. They were filled with criminal charges, one after another. However you looked at it, this was an unpardonable evil. I took up the brush, dipped it in ink, and signed my full name. With my hands manacled, holding the brush was a little awkward. When I had signed, I left my fingerprint as well. Chancellor Liu, I have confessed everything. You can rest easy and go report the success of your mission. Liu Tongyi stood. The clerk entered, took the confession, and lifted the tray. Though standing, Liu Tongyi did not leave. Does Chancellor Liu have something else to ask? I said. Isn't there anything else Your Highness would like to say? Asked Liu Tongyi. No, I said. I've said everything I ought to. Liu Tongyi still did not leave. Smiling, I said, Does Chancellor Liu think I am still concealing something? Supervisor Yun took my very last little fallback. If you do not believe that, you can go investigate. Liu Tongyi said softly, I didn't send Chu Shun to you, and I didn't know that Supervisor Yun was the planted agent. What difference did it make? And so what if you did, I said. Morally speaking, in order to apprehend the rebel prince Jing Wei Yi, you were perfectly justified in doing so. It was a matter of course. Again, Liu Tongyi did not speak. At last, he turned and left. I'm not quite sure why, but like that little part at the end just kind of made me sad. Like just a little, like just, damn. I went to lie in bed and finally ended up falling asleep. When I opened my eyes, I didn't know what time it was. I poured some water from an earthen jar and drank it. Some guards brought in a few dishes and said that Imperial Chancellor Liu had instructed that they be prepared. I was served a bowl of hot porridge and 2 or 3 side dishes, not especially fine, but good enough, and all suited to my tastes. Had I known it would be like this, I would have asked to sign the confession earlier to spare myself some meals consisting of mantu. So, steam bun. When I was full and sitting up in bed to digest, a number of personal guards and a jailer slowly approached my cell, following someone who came to a standstill outside the bars. It was Yun Yu. The guards opened the cell door and Yun Yu came in. He raised a hand to wave all the attendants out of the room. I smiled at him. Supervisor Yun? Yun Yu smiled too. Has your highness been well? From his tone, he might have been greeting me on a regular visit to Wai Manor. Well, naturally, prison isn't as comfortable as home, I said. Yun Yu sat on a small bench beside the table. That's certainly frank, your highness. He looked intently at me with a small smile hovering at the corners of his lips. His Majesty has seen the confession that your Highness signed last night. I see, I said. At the morning court assembly, said Yunyu, the officials earnestly requested that His Highness put your Highness to death. But His Majesty promised that he would spare your Highness's life, and he is not prepared to go back on his word. There are now 2 paths open to your Highness, though that will have to wait until all matters are complete, when Prince Zhang has recovered. Consciousness in the valley and Shusho have been investigated. Presumably, Yunyu had come today representing my nephew, the Emperor, to tell me of those 2 paths and let me choose one. Smiling, I said, I wonder what those 2 paths are. What witty arrangements my imperial nephew has made, having Chancellor Liu bring me the confession and ordering Supervisor Yun to show me the way forward. Not so witty as your Highness's remark, said Yunyu. Of the 2 paths, one is to send you to live in a quiet and tasteful spot, though a bit small, and with rather a lot of servants, and the servants might not suit your Highness's liking. This was house arrest for life. Yunyu went on. The second path is to ask your Highness to reflect upon your wrongs and ultimately have a great awakening. Pufang Temple is located in the capital suburbs. Upon entering that pure sanctuary, all your earthly burdens would be laid down. So they wanted me to shave my head and become a monk. I can lay them down, I said, but I am afraid there will be too many young monks in the temple for the abbot to feel comfortable. Do not worry, your Highness, said Yunyu. This temple was established especially for you. There will be no one to revoke your Highness's worldly impulses. This was also house arrest, just house arrest after shaving my head. I would probably have more space to roam, the run of a whole temple, instead of being locked up in a single set of rooms. So the choice is whether I would prefer to be able to move freely at the cost of a vegetarian diet. What a difficult decision. Permit me to consider this more carefully. There's no rush, said Yunyu. It will take some time for everything to be appropriately investigated. Your Highness can think about it. He paused, then raised his eyebrows. From your Highness's witticism earlier, I take it you must be angry at me. No, I said sincerely. Yunyu's conduct towards me had been no different from mine towards him. To him, I was a traitor, and he was righteous. He had been perfectly justified in what he did for the nation, for Chizzy, and in order to protect his father. He had done no wrong. He had always cautioned me against Liu Tongyi, and had even said Liu Tongyi and Chu Xun perform a duet to hint to me that they were acquainted. There had been forbearance in all of this. Only I had been too deeply ensnared to see it. How could I be angry at you, Supervisor Yun, I said, then joked. I recall I once thought that it would be suitable to die at Chancellor Liu's hands. Now I feel perfectly happy to have been personally captured by Supervisor Yun. This rueful expression, Yunyu said, Your Highness certainly is the most romantic man in the capital. On one side of his neck, above his collar, I made out a faint mark, indistinct in the light of the oil lamp. I continued, all your conduct towards me stemmed from the fact that our positions were different. Had I been in your position, I would have done the same as you. Every man chooses his own path. There is no right or wrong. Every man has his own fate. To live decently is to accept that fate. I lost because I refused to accept mine. It is precisely the outcome one might have expected. Your Highness is not the only one like that, said Yunyu. My father is the same. My father has always seen His Majesty as a young, ignorant emperor and believed himself to be experienced and astute. I am his son. I knew perfectly well there was no way to talk him out of it. At last, a trace of weariness and frustration appeared in his expression. Made sense for Yun Tang to misjudge Shizzy. As Grand Tutor, he had watched a child grow up to be an emperor. It would be easy to continue to see him as that innocent child, as if he didn't know how quickly people could change. Perhaps the only one who completely understood Chizzy was you. At any rate, you have saved your father's life, I said. He won't be able to accept it now, but eventually he will understand that you did this to protect him. Yunyu shook his head. He cannot take the loss as well as your highness, nor see it as clearly. Thank you for the compliment, Supervisor Yoon, I said. Well, perhaps Grand Tutor Yoon and I will be locked up together, and I'll cheer him up, help him see it's better to accept triumph and failure as they come. Yunyu smiled again. Your highness is joking again. How could he lock you and my father up together? It went without saying that he was Chizzy. Smiling, I said, on the subject of jokes, there's something I want to say. Next time you get into a tiff, don't just grab whoever happens to be around in a drunken lark to vent your frustration. This isn't something to play around with. You see, if it's someone as given to self-conceited misunderstandings as me, in a few days they'll be coming to you with romantic declarations, and won't that be annoying? That day at Yuhua Pavilion, it had seemed to me that Yunyu had something on his mind, and I had been right. My eyesight wasn't as poor at all. Because while I myself had never seen sincerity, I had experienced enough insincerity to be able to distinguish the two. Yunyu's expression stiffened. With a bitter smile, he said, Your Highness is a little angry at me after all. I did go too far then. I was a little drunk that day. Later, I did regret it and didn't feel comfortable going to visit you for a few days for fear of awkwardness. Then I really must thank my imperial nephew for imposing on you, or else you might never have come to see me again. If I were angry at you, I wouldn't be talking like this now. Yunyu now stood in the position of my nephew's wife. As an elder, I had to give him a few words of advice. I paused, then went on. Yet there is some advice I have to give you. Take it as long-windedness on my part. You're a little too fond of getting your own way, too full of barbs right at the outset. It's because you're young. As for my imperial nephew, he isn't especially good-tempered either. There will unavoidably be conflicts between you. You must know how to compromise. The situation with your father being what it is, in the immediate future, you're sure to have a hard time. Think in the long term. In these matters, there is no road you cannot walk, no river you cannot cross. Yunyu stared at me in silence. Some time passed, and he tipped up the corners of his mouth and sighed. How has this ended up with your highness giving me advice? It must be because Pufang Temple really is my fate, I said seriously. Yunyu sat a while longer, then rose. I will bid farewell for now. In a few days I will come see your highness again. I hope your highness will take good care of yourself. Watched him walk up to the cell door, then spoke again. Suaya. Yunyu turned and raised his eyebrows, looking at me. Is there something else, your highness? Nothing, I said. Thank you for talking to me. Yunyu smiled and said, If your highness is willing to see me, I will come again in a few days. I nodded. Very well. After Yunyu left, I sat a while, ate another meal, and then went to lie in bed again. When the light in the ventilation hole had gradually dimmed, I stood and called over to the guard in the passage. Could you pass a message on for me? I would like to see Imperial Chancellor Liu. The guard looked impatient. Your Highness Prince Huai, do you think your position is the same as it once was? Imperial Chancellor Liu is the busiest person at court after His Majesty. Perhaps he is still handing official documents at this time. Do you think the Chancellor will come running just because your Highness gives a shout in prison? Just occurred to me that there was something related to this uprising that I hadn't told Chancellor Liu. Since he's busy, forget about it. But maybe I won't remember by tomorrow. When he heard this, the guard vanished like the wind. About 1 Shichen later, Liu Tongyi arrived. He must have come from home. Instead of his official robes, he wore a jade green gown. I drank a mouthful of water. When I saw him stand at the table, I said, "Chancellor Liu, I'm sorry. I don't have anything to say relating to the uprising. There are just some things I'd like to ask for help with. I only said what I did because I was afraid the guard wouldn't agree to report it to you." Liu Tongyi's brow smoothed. "No matter," he said. "Thank you for today's meals, Chancellor Liu," I said. "It ought to have been so all along," said Liu Tongyi. "They were being deliberately neglectful before. What did your Highness want?" I stood. "It's like this. Today, Supervisor Yoon came by and said that His Highness, His Majesty, has made 2 provisional arrangements for me. Chancellor Liu must know them well. These arrangements already show the utmost mercy for me, but I have spent this half-day pondering, and I think that neither house arrest nor taking orders at Pufeng Temple suits me very well. This is why I am asking for your help, Chancellor Liu. I know you are very busy, and I shouldn't trouble you again, but I simply couldn't think of anyone else I could ask. Please say you agree." Liu Tongyi's eyes in the lamplight were very clear, just like many years ago when I had seen him for the first time in the moonlight. "Please go ahead, Your Highness. While I may not be able to help, I will certainly do my best." "I can rest easy with that," I said. I stood not far away from Liu Tongyi. In the light of the oil lamp, our shadows were very heavy. "I only want to ask some trifles of you," I said. "If Prince Zhang wakes and His Majesty does not confiscate Huai Manor, give everything that remains in it to Prince Dai, if he likes. As for the manor itself, if you would like to sell it off, let him. Beside that, tell him all that there is. Or tell him that's all there is. If he spends it all, he won't be able to borrow any more from me. I do not know whether these events will make trouble for Hansi. When he goes to be married, please congratulate him for me. And that's all there is." I put a hand on the edge of the table and coughed twice. One final word. Supervisor Yoon came today, but I didn't feel like I could say this to his face, nor to Chushun. Please pass on a message to them both, Chancellor Liu. Say that they should both have more self-respect. There are many paths to take in this world, so very many. They shouldn't degrade themselves again. Liu Tongyi looked appalled. He shot forward and caught me by the arms. "You!" He turned. "Guards, fetch a physician!" I grabbed hold of his sleeves. "Chancellor Liu, about the conspiracy. I've said all there is to say. There's nothing else." Even in the yellow light of the oil lamp, Liu Tongyi's face managed to look chalky white. Perhaps my vision was starting to go. "Please be merciful, Chancellor Liu. Let me go in peace. Call no one." Liu Tongyi was still calling. My ears roared from the sound. More and more, the acid taste in my mouth surged up. I fought to gather my strength to say, "There's no use calling anyone." I prepared this as a final step. Naturally, there is no cure. Perhaps this did the trick. Liu Tongyi's voice gradually quieted, as did he himself. Though I still had his sleeves caught in my hand, and my arms were still in his grasp, he gradually drew away. My legs were weak, my eyelids heavy. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know this is a serious part. But when I read my legs were weak, my eyelids heavy, the next thing that popped into my head was Mom Spaghetti. And I was like, it's not time for a rap. Oh my God. I felt as if I was already lying in bed. The fabric slowly slipped from my fingers as I lost the strength to hold on. I struggled to preserve a last bit of clarity and said, Rancy. My arms hurt a little where he was gripping them. Liu Tongyi was still listening to me. At the critical moment, calling him Rancy was still effective. I said, as I am, I can hardly be buried without causing trouble. So let me be burned and scatter the ashes by some mountain or river, and everything will be clean. After delivering this exhaustive speech, I had no more strength to speak. I drifted in a daze. I didn't know whether I'd been dreaming before or whether this now was the dream. A dusting of snow swirled through the air. In Huai Manor's garden, little Yun Yu overturned the teacup on the young crown prince's knees and stood there, blankly clutching his plum blossoms. Then the child in the boa-embroidered robe before him said, There is nothing the matter with me. Do not scold him or punish him. Yun Yu's eyes opened wide. Snow that had blown in under the veranda's roof settled on the plum blossom branch in his hand. The moon like a silver mirror, a pond full of stars. The youthful Liu Tongyi sat under a lantern, reading by its light, holding The Legend of the Red-Bearded Hero in both hands, with his attention raptly focused on each and every page. A fog came up, and in the blink of an eye, night turned to day. The young Zhuang Yuan, with flowers in his hair, wore a red robe. The green waters of the pond were gone, and the courtyard was full of crepe myrtle, its flowers bright and beautiful. I wanted to ask Liu Tongyi whether he still remembered the last line of The Legend of the Red-Bearded Hero. Since time immemorial, so many righteous fellowships and heroic ideals have come to naught but a pot of good wine, a drunken reverie, and a night of pleasant dreams. And that is where the chapter ends for tonight. What a cliffhanger. All right, hang on. Yeah, we're going to end it there tonight. Whew. So that happened. I kind of was wondering if something was going to happen where he would pull something kind of like this, because he kind of was building to, I'm going to end on this note where I'm the villain. And it seemed like the only way he could do that successfully, especially with his luck, is taking himself out of the picture. He's also kind of just dramatic like that, so I'm not really surprised he went with the poison route. I mean, clearly, I'd be very surprised if we suddenly got like a point of view shift where it's like, so he died. He really wants to be the villain. Yes. You put it exactly how it is, Chi-Chi Kiki. Like, he was like, well, me trying to be a good person didn't really work. So, yes, I did this all on purpose. Like, I totally meant to do this. Yes. This was my idea. I did not just fail it. My plans did not just completely fall through. This. He's giving Megamind right now. He's so giving Megamind right now. Am I wrong? Like, he's got that flair to him. So, I'm kind of curious where we're going to go from here. Like, are we going to have dream sequence? Are we going to have a different point of view? Is he going to wake up and they'll be like, so we talked to your uncle. He is the drama. He so is the drama. Oh, he so is the drama. Yeah. But anyway, at least we only have to wait like 2 days to find out. I will be doing chapter 7 and 8. I think it's just 7 and 8 on Thursday. Let me look at my calendar real quick. Yeah, Thursday's fine. That's normal. I just need to figure out if it's next week or the week after that I can't do Tuesday. What day? Let's see. Today is the 3rd. Thursday. Okay. This Thursday is fine. Next Tuesday is fine. But next week's Thursday, we will not be doing a stream. So you kind of don't have to worry about that this week because it doesn't affect this week. I'll remind you guys, like usual, next week that Tuesday, yes, Thursday. Thursday, I'm getting my Kitsune Weiwuxian Nine-Tail Foxian, which I'm so excited about. But I highly doubt that it will be done by 8 o'clock. So, yeah. But then you'll be able to see it next Tuesday. So I might be talking kind of funny because I have a dental visit that day. But it will be fine. But yeah. No, tonight was good. I enjoyed this. Mostly. A little bit frustrated. But yeah, he is the drama, so I'm not surprised. All right. But anyway, I know we're ending a little early tonight. That's kind of because last week kind of flaked out a little bit. But yeah, I hope you all have had a wonderful time. I hope that you enjoyed too, Cookielicious, if you're still with us. And hope to see you in the stream again. And to all of you who are watching later, I hope you had a good time. Enjoyed the drama, as always. And I will see you on Thursday. Or another day, whenever you're watching this. Good night. Oop, where is it? It always does this. There we go. Good night. For real this time.